ritual. And so for hearts that are torn, we tear this clear ribbon, and I invite you to share these words after me in Hebrew and then in English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan ha'emet. And I'll just interpret in English. It literally means, blessed are you, God, you're the true judge. The way I like to interpret it is, God, we don't always know the ways in which you work. Your ways are a mystery to us, particularly in this circumstance. But we hold on to you, we hold on to your rituals, we hold on to your customs at this very difficult time. It is those customs that help make us get through. So I invite you to tear the ribbon now. You can do it, they're self-tearing actually. You can either do it for each other, or you can do it for yourself from the bottom.
At the bottom, and we tear right up.
It doesn't have to be all the way, just a couple of inches.
Oh, the bottom. Got it.
Thank you, Bart.
Thank you.
Esa enai el hearim, Esa enai el hearim, me'ayin yavo, yavo esri, me'ayin yavo, yavo esri. Rabbi Sheila Peltz Weinberg writes, Dear God, we are bound with very tight knots. They choke off our air. They stop our blood from pulsating freely. These knots make us like computers with carefully controlled circuitry. The knots in our brains tie our creativity, our link to you. We follow the knot around its intricacy, but it remains a knot. The knots in our hearts keep us now from crying and dancing before we long to. They tie us to the posts of fences and they separate us from each other. The knots in our muscles keep our teeth clenched, our jaws locked, our legs crossed, our shoulders stooped, our backs bent, our chests from inhaling and exhaling the full sweetness of life's breath. Oh God, dear God, untie all of these knots. The words of this reading ring so very true. On this second to last week of an already burdened and difficult 2020. On a morning when we wish we could be awaiting news of a special celebration to share, a chance to travel and visit our loved ones. We should be enjoying our time with family, and instead we are drawn to a funeral home with a family plunged into grief. Today we feel betrayed as Marc's life's work, his personal example amidst a loving family, and the respect he earned for his name continually, as a friend, a son, a brother, a precious human being who walked among us, has been stilled. Learning of his tragic death, just as a blizzard condition hit New York City last week, we had to admit that none of us can escape from the tight knots we feel, binding us up, constricting us from our sense that his life was lived fully. But a meditation in our prayer book offers words that might help us remember Marc's family and his community's love for him. and remind us that it is both a holy and a fearful thing. 'Tis a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, to hope, to dream, to be and to lose. A thing for fools, this, a holy thing to love your life, which has lived in me, your laugh, which has lifted me, your word gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, a holy thing to love what death has touched. I share this reading as well as a reminder of our shared purpose here this morning, both during our service here and at the service of internment to follow. We have two mitzvot in mind. One is to provide, to mark what the rabbis called the chesed shel emet, the final kindness we can assist someone with on earth. The ability to know that their loved ones, those who knew them best, were present and literally helped assist in their burial. The other is to provide kavod hamet, respect and honor for the one who has died. And this has little to do with his physical remains. This is about remembering alongside the bitterness and the harshness of knowing what we've just said, that no parent should have to bear the sight of the casket carrying their child. We are still obliged to remember and respect the love he earned, the goodness he engendered and will always represent to us. And to remember that none of that kavod, none of that respect is buried with him today. Quite the opposite. We wear our respect and love for him on our sleeve. We enliven it and revive it in ways that we can, because we can no longer bring back to life his physical being. And so we gather here in this room. All the more so, we gather with folks watching us on live stream during the course of this service. And together during this strange time in our world, we form a communion of hearts, committing to remember Marc Tenenbaum's values and walk away, I pray, forever and always enabled to see what is ahead, because Marc's light shined on what was ahead. Zichrono livracha. May his memory be an abiding benediction. Amen.
I invite you to join me now in the recitation of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. When Great Trees Fall, by Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words, unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. I know Robbie wants to share a few words about his brother Mark. Robbie, if you wish, you can take your mask off to share those words.
My parents asked if I'd say a few words, and this is hard. Mark was an incredible son to my parents. Mom, Dad, anytime anything was going on, especially in these last 15, 20 years, whether it was a heart procedure for Dad or a new valve for Mom, or any other things that went on, Mark was always there, and just on a plane in a second and in Cleveland to be there with us and with the family, and that was who Mark was, and Mark just knew that he needed to be there for his family, and we love him for that. Mark truly loved celebrating with all of us our family trips. I can tell you that as the Tenenbaum family, we would find excuses to have a celebration. It could be this anniversary, or it could be this birthday. We made a big thing out of whatever the number was. We would celebrate it to the max. So I will forget some of the trips, to forget to mention them, but as a family, we went to Israel. We went to London. We went to Costa Rica. We went to California. We were in Santa Barbara with that goofy hotel where we had to schlep the luggage up the stairs. But it was actually really nice. Dad did a great job selecting the hotel. We had a detour because there was a fire, and wound up passing a beautiful lake, and so it wasn't such a bad detour. We went many, many years ago to Hawaii, which was a tremendous amount of fun. I think back then we stopped somewhere. I don't know, the plane couldn't make it all the way. We had to stop somewhere, maybe Oakland or something, but on a stretch 8. All right, so there we go. It was a stretch. How I remember that, I don't know. This was Mark's job to remember the little details. The last trip that we had together and the last time we saw Mark in person was in December last year. We all went to Miami. We had great times. We had great walks. We had great food. We had great coffee, and we really all enjoyed each other. Had a trip planned this summer, which had to be postponed, and we'll do a trip, and we'll remember Mark wherever we go. And we'll miss the fact that, as Dad was just saying, Mark was our go-to guy for almost everything. if you needed to know who played third base for the Indians in 1974, Mark would be able to tell you without looking it up. No Google needed. And we will miss the fact that we had our own walking Google whenever we were together. And that was truly great. Something that really touched us as a family was Mark's work in New York. The law firm invited us to be on a memorial that they had for Mark. And the things they shared and the things we learned about the side of Mark that we couldn't see on a regular basis was truly amazing. They gave us an incredible gift because I knew Mark as the brother. We fought, we loved each other. That's how brothers are. It's perfectly fine. But we saw how caring he was in the workplace, how he was the go-to guy that everybody would go to for the really difficult things. And this made us feel so good, so good. With COVID, it's so hard. It's so hard with not being able to hug my mom and hug my dad. But we're here for each other. We'll stay safe through all of this so that we can have a really great celebration of Mark's life once all of the pandemic is over, which we hope will be over soon. And lastly, I want to say that Mark was a great brother to me. Whether I was celebrating something that was a high, or if there was a low, he was there. He was always there. It was unconditional love. And I will never forget that, and I will try to pay that forward. The things that Mark and I used to do together, besides the trips, the Browns games, and for the time that I've spent at Ohio State, the Mark coming for the Ohio State-Michigan game, he wasn't always happy at the end of the game, but we had such an unbelievable time on that journey. There was supposed to be another one this past November, but we were telling each other, in a couple of years we'll get to do that again. So I guess I just can't thank all of the outpouring from our friends, our family, the close relatives, the distant relatives, and all of the people at my work and in my life in Columbus. Everybody's been extraordinary. My colleagues, the team that I coach, have been unbelievable and truly great. So, Mom, Dad, you did an amazing job raising Mark. Maybe me too, I don't know. But an amazing job, and let's use this time as a celebration of all of the good and all of the great memories that we have of Mark. I love you guys so much. Yeah. Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you, Robbie, for your heartfelt words. Seeing the pictures of Mark
and you, and seeing the resemblances is just beautiful, and also seeing the smile. Both Mark's and yours is your smile. Thank you for letting me get to know your son through you, through your memories, through your reflections. It's a real blessing, for both Rabbi Nosenchuk and myself. Pirkei Avot, which is also known as the Ethics of Our Fathers, is filled with valuable dictums and aphorisms applicable for life. But this one struck me as fitting as we remember Mark today. Ezo hu mechubad, hamechabed et habriot. Who is honorable? The one who honors all others. This was Mark. He honored others by listening to them, by learning from them, by understanding who they were. He was engaged. He honored others by being in relationship with those who he knew. His honesty and kindness, merged with his intellect, enabled him to excel in his professional craft. Mark was always this way. Growing up in Shaker Heights, son to his ever-proud parents, Lee and Nancy, and brother to Robbie, Mark was a quiet kid. And while the two brothers might have come from the same home, I think you told me this, Robbie, you couldn't be more different. Robbie was outgoing and Mark was more introspective. And nevertheless, you two bonded in your love for sports. And in adulthood, your banter about the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry was a constant. You two love the Cleveland Browns. You'd probably be very happy about the outcome of last night's game. And together you bemoaned their heartbreaking losses, especially the ones you witnessed in person at Municipal Stadium. And together as a family, you all traveled the world, as you mentioned. A Thanksgiving weekend family tradition involved visiting the homes of former United States presidents who lived in Ohio. And that's what a great tradition to do on the Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend. And I could see, with Mark's love of history, how engaged he must have been. The traveling traditions continued, including a trip to Alaska a couple of summers ago, and yes, that trip to Israel. This last one was a gift from Robbie and Mark to their parents. Mark was an avid reader, reading biographies and history, especially about the Civil War. He was a political junkie, always up to discuss American or Israeli politics. He was a proud and identified Jew who was raised at Fairmount Temple to honor his heritage through his practice, through his behaviors in life. Mark knew Judaism was important and central to who he was and to his parents, to his ancestry, how it was an area of connection for the whole family. He would come to town when one of the high holy days fell near a weekend, and he was a loving child who was no doubt grateful to Lee and Nancy for raising him with the belief that he could achieve just about anything he set his mind to. Mark's curiosity and interest in learning and growing his knowledge was stoked in undergrad at the University of Michigan. He earned his bachelor's degree in economics there, and he received his law degree at The Ohio State University, where he served on the board of directors of the Ohio State Law Journal. For 7 years, Mark worked for the federal government's Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, gaining great expertise in bankruptcy law. Mark wrote numerous appellate briefs and was involved in high-profile litigation before the United States Supreme Court. And since 2007, Mark was affiliated with Virginia and Ambiter, the firm for which he worked up until his death. Mark edited and published articles related to ERISA, or the Employment Retirement Income Security Act, an area in which he was respected for his deep knowledge and understanding. He was his colleagues' go-to guy for any legal matter and for understanding its political context. And it's clear that he was the go-to guy for every kind of trivial information or things that you had done. His mind worked that way. Mark's professional life and ancestry came full circle when he served as counsel to the New York Carpenters Union. As it happened, Mark's great-grandfather, I think I got that correct, Harry Tenenbaum, was a member of the New York Carpenters Union decades and decades prior. What a wonderful way to honor the life of a relative. I don't think he ever got to meet Harry. What an incredible tribute. But as accomplished as Mark was as an attorney, it was the relationships he built with his colleagues that was so very special. You talked about it, Robbie. What an incredible connection and a gift that the colleagues gave you all to share their memories. I have a few of them here myself that Lee had shared with me. A partner at Virginia and Ambinder said, Mark worked side by side with me during the first few years after VNA replaced O'Dwyer and Bernstein. He was a very honorable person and an excellent attorney. We will miss him. A colleague from another law firm wrote, Mark was a superb lawyer and an extraordinarily kind, gracious, and generous colleague. I often went to Mark with questions that no one else seemed to know the answer to, and Mark would always give me excellent guidance. May Mark rest in peace. A client wrote, I am devastated. I was very fond of him, and we had a great working relationship. He helped teach me so much throughout the years. In a note to Lee and Nancy, Eva Karaspati, a paralegal who worked for Mark, shared the following. He was truly a great person to work for and with. He was kind, funny, exceptionally smart. I would feel so honored whenever he would trust me to help him with his cases, as he seemed to prefer doing most of the work on them himself. During the past few months, because of the pandemic, the ERISA group had had casual weekly Zoom meetings to chat since we have been unable to see each other in person. I feel like I got to know Mark so much more during this time, and I am truly devastated to think that he will not be there at our next meeting. He talked of you often, Lee and Nancy, especially recently as the holidays approached, and expressed disappointment that he could not travel to Ohio and be with you all. A managing partner at Mark's firm shared the following. I will miss Mark. I will miss his booming laugh. I will miss the way he would make a face and roll his eyes at me when I said something he thought was incorrect, or when I razzed him that eating pizza for lunch was unhealthy. I will miss the intellectual security blanket he represented in my professional life. Mostly, I will miss not having him as my wingman. Mark's life measured up to the adage that you should live so that when others think of fairness and integrity, they think of you. And yes, Mark's colleagues hosted a beautiful virtual tribute to Mark at the end of last week. You were all able to be there, hear about your son, hear about your brother, as you said, Robbie, in ways that you hadn't heard about him before. Isn't it a beautiful thing when those surprises happen? And you knew it intellectually, cognitively, that your son, your brother was accomplished, loved. But when you hear other people share those memories with you, it goes deep inside, deep into your heart. How pronounced it was for you to learn how beloved Mark was. And with a wonderful, wonderful sense of humor that he employed quite often. Their appreciation for Mark as a person was the only thing that exceeded their respect for him as an attorney and as a colleague. I can't think of any professional who would want a greater tribute. They knew it in their hearts, but they were heartened to hear, you, Lee and Nancy, that he lived up to the values of kindness and love for others for which you had so clearly raised him. In this time, when we cannot all be together, family and friends, it is especially challenging to provide the comfort and love we wish to convey to you, Nancy, Lee, and Robbie. Oh, I wish we could do that. I wish we could physically hug you, hold you, be in your home. But we hope you can feel the great love we have for all of you, the support that is at your backs. Zichrono livracha. Let us all continue to honor Mark through our words, through our deeds. Let his memory be an enduring blessing for all. And we say, Amen. I share with you this poem. When will I be with myself again? When will I be myself again? Some Tuesday, perhaps in the late afternoon, sitting quietly with a cup of tea and a cookie. On Tuesday, sometime or later, you will stir from a nap and see him. You will pick up the phone call to call him. You will hear his voice, unexpected advice, and maybe argue, and you will not be frightened, and you will not be sad, and you will not be alone, not alone at all. And your tears will warm you, but not today, and not tomorrow, and not tomorrow's tomorrow, but someday, some Tuesday, late in the afternoon, sitting quietly with a cup of tea and a cookie, you will be yourself again. I invite you now to rise at your seats for the chanting of El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim shochein bamromim Amsei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina במעלות קדושים מותרים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת מרדכי בן לייב ולאה, שלח לעולמו בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן. El Malei Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the soul of Marc Tenenbaum, who has gone to his eternal home. O merciful one, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.